I know things you never see. You never see someone taking a shit while running at full speed.
Come on, kid, get rid of some of them turds in the shit box.
Welcome to the Bathroom Break Podcast with me, Rab himself. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Rab from the Bathroom Break Podcast. Just wanted to take a minute to thank you all for listening to the podcast. It's been a lot of fun to sit down with some really interesting people and shoot the shit, talk all that poop and stuff. But yeah, we want to try and make this thing better for you, so we're going to need to raise some funds. If you head over to greengate.bigcartel.com, there's a donation link there. If you feel so inclined to donate to the Bathroom Break Podcast, awesome. If not, sit back and listen. We're going to talk some crap.
Oh, go see the Biggest Little Farm? Or Yeah, nice. So is that playing everywhere, or like it's playing in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad.
Soon, I guess. What's today? Today's end of May. Yeah, it starts playing in June.
What is today? The 26th or 7th?
Yeah.
Damn. So it starts playing in June in Australia, and then is it gonna go like kind of worldwide, or?
I mean, that is kind of worldwide. Yeah. So I guess it's in, 500 theaters right now around the United States.
Yeah.
And then from what I know, in June it opens in, like
UK and Australia.
A bunch of different countries, yeah.
Damn, that's rad.
I don't want to give the wrong info because I don't know where, but I think it's something like 18 or 20 countries or something like that. And then as long as it does well.
But what about me?
What about this country over here?
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. The movie's called The Biggest Little Farm.
Yeah.
And I just saw it the other day, and it's incredible. And I mean, it's a crazy story, like from start to finish, and it really like rounds it out nicely because it starts off like whoa shit, and then it kind of ends like oh man, like kind of it bookends it a little bit, but in between it's a crazy cool story about it. And I just wanted to hear a little bit of your experience about it because you're one of the cinematographers for the movie.
Yeah.
So you went out there and
so I think we were hanging out around the time that I got the call to go out there, and for me I like just looked at my email and I was like, nope, probably not. Like
nope.
To be perfectly honest, I mean, as you know, like I have been traveling for probably 5 years straight, and having a ton of fun on the road shooting these documentaries. And this was like this email, it was like, hey, we were looking for somebody to move on to this farm, and we're making this movie. It's about farm animals, blah blah blah, and I was like, I read it and I was like,
I think of farm animals, I think of you, Benji. And
I had turned so many things down just because like I just love traveling so much, and I was having so much fun doing that.
Yeah.
And I knew that would put a stop to it temporarily for a few months because they were looking for somebody to move onto the farm for 4 months.
Yeah.
And then I read this film is going to be a mix of Planet Earth mixed with Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what got me. And I was like, damn, that sounds cool. Like,
yeah,
okay.
And dude, some of the shots in there are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. I'll get more into asking you like what cameras you were shooting on, like what lenses and some of that stuff, but it was like it was like that Planet Earth feel of like, I mean, some of the time lapses at night were amazing, and then some of those just like macro shots of like hummingbirds and things. I was just like, damn, blown away by it.
Yeah,
beautiful. And then, but there's so many different like formats because throughout it, it's like. It's also like home video feel on some parts, like, oh man, like, somebody grabbed a camera when something was going down, and you're like, damn, this is a part of the story. And it's a pretty amazing story all the way through from start to finish. At first, you're kind of panicked when you first see what's happening. Then you get the heartfelt, like, kind of fall in love with the people and with their vision and what's happening there. And then, there's heartache with other stuff with the one guy, and then don't want to give it away, but there's so much kind of emotional stuff that you go through on the ride of that whole story.
The story arc's kind of crazy. There's like 3 or 4 of them in it, and then between the animals as well. So like I was saying, when I moved onto the farm, I ended up taking the job, obviously, and then moved into a trailer on the farm, and I didn't tell anybody. anybody that was like employing me full time almost at that time, I just didn't tell them.
Just in case you wanted
just
to get
in
out of
case,
there?
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
just in case, I need to like escape. No, that wasn't the plan at all. I was gonna stick it through, and I was pretty happy with that decision. There were a few times where I was like living in this trailer, and it was I think during the time I was shooting cows take shits for about a week, because we had to get these macro shots of poop, and then show flies landing in it and then laying their eggs, which then turn into like these little maggots. You probably saw some of those shots. That was like a week-long thing that I was doing. Yeah, and not only that, but like the whole film. First of all, John Chester is like a genius. He's the guy who owns the farm. He was the director. The whole thing was his vision. So like everything had to be shot in the morning or at night when it was all backlit, perfectly like golden hour times. Yeah. Even the poop shots, So it was like, wake up early, like go out into the field. Like it was probably pretty funny. The behind the scenes thing would be pretty great to like see me with all this camera gear and like just poaching cows shitting. Like here it comes.
Their assholes open.
Ooh. Is that what? And then like running across the field, like dodging cow pies, with like all these cameras and gear to like get in there quick, because like it all happens like in a brief second. The flies land and they land, and then there's like these little maggots that come out, and like it's crazy because you set up on a macro lens or on a probe lens, which is another crazy lens we were using. Yeah. And you're just right in there with it, and you're like, oh my god, that's what happens when flies land on things, Yeah. And it freaks you out because you're like, what happens if a fly lands on my steak? Or like,
it's gross.
They're laying that like within seconds. Is that really what Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I didn't tell anybody. I just went on. I started doing it. I got the job, and it was a ton of fun. It was like waking up early and hanging out with animals every day. Yeah. And the idea was to figure out what the story was with the animals.
Okay. Not that it'll give it away, but I'm sure everybody loves Emma.
Yeah, Emma the pig.
Yeah, like that is like Asha's in love. Like we actually had bacon that morning, and she was like, "I feel so horrible. Like I ate Emma," and I was like, "Technically, you ate Emma's kids because Emma hung around and the kids." Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, to give an idea of the story too, like I heard a story from you once about how when you first got there, like when you started eating the food there.
Oh yeah.
Like I wanted to hear about
that was trippy. It was so I was lucky enough to be on the meal plan, which not everybody there is on the meal plan, so it's kind of a special thing.
Yeah. Meaning that you get to eat there?
I get to eat the food that is grown on the farm.
Cool.
So Molly, John's wife, the other co-owner of the farm, who also had the idea to build this place, she's a chef, and she wanted to build a farm that provided the most like healthy, natural, biodynamic, a step above organic food possible in the most traditional way. And so the farm, that's what it grows. And so, me being like decently healthy, like I eat pretty good, I thought, like organic food.
Right.
I mean, I've been working on projects where I see, farms and what kind of stuff they put on the crops and everything, so I'm pretty well aware. But when I got onto the farm and onto the meal plan, I was sick for like 2 weeks. Just stomach sick, and I was like, what is going on? I was like running back to my trailer like throughout the day to like let one out. I clogged that toilet so many times. For one, it's not only my fault because of the trailer's like toilet didn't work great, but also it was the probiotics in the food were so like they're so nutrient rich with probiotics that it actually made me sick. Like my body was reacclimating to healthy food.
That's crazy because it makes you think like your stomach got used to all this bad stuff, and it just fights the bad stuff so bad that when like healthy good stuff goes in, they're like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. I mean, your gut is so used to putting whatever it is that you put into it that it's like, more Dr. Pepper, like, all right, like sugar.
Bring on the dew.
Bring it on. Yeah, it's like whatever you put into it, it's just like acclimated to that. And then for me to move on to that farm, I mean, I think it was on the 3rd week that I stopped getting stomach sick, and then I finally then I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to like be the sick guy like in my first 2 weeks of working on the farm, so I didn't say anything, and then I brought it up when I started feeling
shitting
better.
And puking in private, like, oh, no, everything's good. Let's grab the lens. Cool,
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, also, I had like a hurt neck. Like I had like 7 herniated discs or something in my spine or something right before I went on, and a chiropractor fixed me like right before I went on. Yeah, too long. Oh man, it almost didn't happen because of that. I like woke up like a week early or a week before I started that job, and I was like, damn, I can't move. And Sarah like picked me up out of bed, and I was like half paralyzed, and I had a chiropractor fix me, and then I went onto the farm, and they're like, okay, this is the camera you're using, it's all gonna be handheld. I'm like, cool, yeah, I got this. Like, fuck. But it ended up being fine. It ended up like my neck was fine. The probiotics like in the food, once my stomach got used to that and acclimated, it was like the best. Absolutely the best food I've ever had.
So you felt like once you got over like basically the sickness. I had done like a diet at one point where there was like 10 days where I kind of felt fluish, and then once I got over that, then I felt the best I ever felt.
Yeah.
Like, is that like what happened? Like where you, like you felt like crap as your body was like getting rid of all the. Well, you had already been eating pretty well anyway, but like it was getting rid of the organic, like and then seeing like really.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even organic, it's like there's all sorts of loopholes in that, which like you find out from working on a traditional farm, like
or you find out from Whole Foods getting caught sticking organic stickers on food, and it's really
exactly.
not,
Yeah.
Gee, we could charge way more if we put the sticker on it.
Yeah.
That was always my thought, and you're like, you never really know, but when you go to like the farmer's market or like to a farm and get eggs from there, like like that just came out of that chicken right there. Like, and the chicken's walking around. It's not sitting in a thing like strapped in and shot with like, steroids or hormones or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's crazy. So you got to experience what that is. And was your body, like, did you feel so much better from that food? Like, once you got over the hump, you felt...
I mean... Just the cooking in general was insane. I mean, there's professional chefs, because that's what Molly is. And so there's like, that's who they hire. And actually our friend Jim and Jill, I got them a job working there as chefs for a minute also.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so, they were hiring like kind of the best of the best in that realm. So like the food itself like was just great. You could pick a fruit off the tree and it was the best fruit you ever had. It was like 0 pesticides.
That's right.
No chemicals. Like, they use compost tea instead of water, is what they water the plants with, and that's all developed with like worm waste. And
they don't use Brondo?
No.
It's like
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Put Kool-Aid on it too, but flavor it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was the best food I've ever had. And the eggs especially, like you might see in the film, like the eggs in the chicken process that they go through to get these like eggs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they sell for as much as they do at like Erewhon. They're like the most expensive eggs you can get. But like,
how much is it?
$15
for 12. Well, that's not that bad, right? Because it's just like $1 an egg.
I mean,
it's crazy compared to.
So what else you'd be paying?
It's $3 for like a normal, or for like the cheapest or whatever.
But you're never gonna have a better egg in your life. Yeah. Like I can guarantee.
The one was crazy. How they had that big one and then they broke it.
And then the one inside.
Yeah.
That was a trip. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I mean, you got to go check out this movie, The Biggest Little Farm. Benji Lanpher here is my guest on the Bathroom Break podcast, and he's one of the cinematographers for that film. And it's just a really neat look into what it takes to do this type of farming. And it's called like. What type of farming? Just kind of traditional? Is what
so the farm is a traditional farm. In the film, John has his reasons for staying away from the title of biodynamic, but it is a biodynamic farm. The way that I was first introduced to it was it's a biodynamic, biodiverse farm. Biodynamic being a step above organic. In the fact that there's like 0 pesticides, 0 chemicals. Even the farms next to it that neighbor the farm were only allowed to spray their crops on non-windy days at a certain time so that their chemicals wouldn't blow over. So there's a lot of attention put towards like keeping it chemical free, and then the biodiversity comes in the way that the animals cohesively work together.
Yeah.
To eliminate that as well.
Yeah, it made me think, like, when I started to see kind of how, like, the whole ecosystem of everything was working, it made me think of that video that with the wolves in Yellowstone. Have you ever seen that video?
I don't know.
So they talk about, like, how they reintroduced the gray wolf into Yellowstone because it was no longer there. And then you see, like, the effects of, like, oh, well, that needed to be the predator of this thing that was killing all this, that was killing, and it all just affected one another. And I had seen that video a few years back, and it was, like, pretty mind-blowing to see, like, how if one thing's off. And I sort of had that mindset going in when I was watching The Farm. As you see, if one thing is off, everything is off. And so then it was like, you know, the course of time that it took them to figure that out, to, like, to go, okay, there's certain things that we believe are pests, but they're actually good because they're doing this and they're doing that. And, like, so learning that along the way was pretty neat to see how it all kind of works together. To be able to make it.
Yeah, and I came in, I moved to the farm 2 years ago, so the film takes place over the course of 8 years. I think 7 to 8 years.
Yeah.
And I came in, I think, around year 6, and so, like, a lot of that had already happened, but it was crazy to get to see it towards the end of that cycle of seeing it finally, like, cohesively working together.
Yeah.
Because it was, and it's a trip. It's like, oh, wow. I mean, the owls, you know, like, the owls were one of the first things that I started shooting on the farm, and that was like a 3-week project. They gave birth to, like, these baby owls, and they were going to fledge, and so I had a duck blind, and at, like, 9 or 10 p.m. at night, I'd get in this duck blind that was set up by the owls, and then I would sit there, I think, from, like, 9 until 5 a.m. when they would kind of slow down. Oh, yeah. And I would just wait for them to, like, fly out and hunt, but then also for these babies to fledge. Turns out it had 7 babies. So, damn. Like, what I thought was going to be, like, maybe 1 or 2 babies and might take, like, a week to tell this story.
Yeah.
And we're also trying to, like, find the story between these animals. Ended up being, like, 2.5, almost 3 weeks. I think I was, like, living in this duck blind at night, doing overnighters, documenting these owls. And it was cool. Like, I really felt like I was filming something like Planet Earth. Yeah. I wasn't, like, capturing a snow leopard, but it was like...
Might as well.
But pretty much. The snow leopard of the farm. And so, like, it's fun. It's, like, really fun focusing on something like that for that long. And the owls were, like, one of my favorite times on that farm because it was, like, these 7 babies finally came out, and they didn't know any different. They didn't know, like, me was just, like, me being there was normal. Like, they didn't know any different. Like, I was their father, Like, I was, like, this other thing that was, like, living amongst them. And so...
Yeah, that's crazy.
They let me film them, no problem. Their parents would freak out. So they'd go hunt, bring, like, dead rats back or whatever they were catching.
Yeah.
But the babies would just come out and they'd, like, stare at me. And I could film them and got these really cool shots.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy to think, like, they didn't know any different. So then that's just their world, and they're, like, cool with you. And then the parents are like, get this crazy ass out of here with that lens. Yeah. They're like, not today. I haven't done my makeup.
Is that a 100 to 400?
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool because I really like. It really fit a niche that I've always liked with filmmaking, which is, like, very immersive filmmaking. In any form. I mean, whether it's like I'm filming a band, like I want to live with the band, or in the past I've moved them into our house, and you get to know them, you get to, like, really tell their story. It's like with Vice, I've like been in situations where I fully immerse myself in that spot to tell that story. And for this, it was like a 3 to 4 month project of, like, immersing yourself with farm animals, which is like. It doesn't get much better than that. It's just cool. You get to hang out with these, like, little lambs as they're born, and then they think of you as just somebody that's, like, lives with, like, them, and like, they're not afraid of you, and so to tell those kind of stories was pretty incredible, and to, like, kind of create them as they went on. The big one in there too that I was proud of was the ducks. I won't give it totally away, but they use animals to take care of pests, and the ducks. They release into the lemon trees, different row of lemon trees every day. And so, like, when they asked me to figure out the story with that, John and I started writing it out, and it was like, this is kind of like a militant sort of like operation we've got going, you know, like this big gate comes down and these ducks just are so like amped up and excited to like get out in the morning and like and it just like come flying out, and that's like, so we're like, all right, this is like kind of militant sort of like, we want it to be like a foggy morning, and it was all like set up, you know, like but like it took I think a week and a half to do that right, and we could only do it on foggy mornings. And so it was like picking those mornings, like we'd have a call at like 5 a.m. It'd be like, John, it's foggy out, like we're doing the ducks and the lemon trees, you know, and we'd get all the gear down there and we'd set up the shots, but we wanted these like epic like shots of the ducks flying out. And
man, it was cool. The whole ride of it was fun. My wife and I and our friends from out of town went and watched it. And it was just, it was a really cool story all the way through. But you'll have to go check it out, The Biggest Little Farm. Benji Lanpher is one of the cinematographers sitting here with me, and good friend of mine, and very talented cinematographer. So you have to check it out, man. There's some really cool shots in that, and he said it's in 500 theaters.
I think, yeah.
And then it'll be out for a little while. Do you think it'll expand more? I mean, it seems like a story that kind of people want to or need to hear right now. Of just like it's like, I don't know, it covers everything. You know, it's like a good like heartwarming story, as well as like the challenges and tribulations that happen throughout life, and it covers all of that. And so check it out. That's it's rad. But boy, let's talk about some more stuff.
Oh boy,
that's no, I was just thinking, man. There's so many different things. I mean, you live a pretty exciting life, and have so many different kind of avenues of it. You mentioned a little bit about Vice, and I've heard some stories, and I've seen some of the stuff that you shot. Like there was this one piece that was on like soccer. It like where was that?
Fuck, man, that's one of my favorite ones. It was so I did rivalries for Viceland. Well, we did Vice World of Sports first, and then that spawned a show in itself called Rivalries, because like they threw me into this place. They threw me into Serbia to document like the hooligans.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
And it was like, wait a minute, like this is a whole different show, because like these people are fucking crazy. Yeah, you know, and
like for real crazy. Like when I see it, like it doesn't seem like a human was there getting the footage of it. It seems like you'd be dead if you're trying to film that.
Oh, we came close.
Yeah,
like, but that's like, yeah,
like for real, you know. Like I think it's like you can laugh about it when you're out here talking about it because it's over,
right?
But in the mix of it, it's got to be scary as shit. It literally looked to me like a fucking war happened, and then they wanted to play a soccer game. Yeah. Like that wasn't even like look, I'm from Philadelphia, so it's pretty like throw ice balls at Santa Claus, that kind of feel. Like you're going, they're pretty serious about their sports, but that's like child's play compared to what's happening over there. It legitimately looked like a war.
Yeah.
And then you were like, when I was watching, you're like, yeah, they didn't even start the game yet. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like it seemed like, isn't that what would happen after?
It's not even about the game.
Yeah.
It's not about the game at all.
Gangs and like,
yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous.
I mean, you think like Bloods and Crips, like in California.
Yeah.
Like over there, it's same kind of thing. It's like colors matter. You'll get shot in the street for wearing the wrong ones.
Yeah.
But it revolves around sports. It's like, and it's not just soccer. It's like their basketball teams. You know, we met this guy who was from the United States. He was from California. Yeah. And he played basketball, and he injured himself, and so he came out of, I think he was an NBA player.
Yeah.
Injured himself, and then he moved to Serbia to like re-heal, and then got on one of their teams there, and all of a sudden he's playing Serbian basketball, and they're paying him a ton of money, but he's like, hey, like this is great, like I haven't left my house in like 3 weeks. He's like, because I can't, because like they'll kill me, like they'll his gym is like in his complex, like somebody grocery shops for him.
That's gnarly. It's
extreme to like the highest level, like they're gangsters, they're mafias, and that's what they are, same in like Argentina. It's they're a mafia. And they run the country. Like I think the guy that we were kind of held up in Argentina, and the guy that did that is like running the country now in Argentina.
Yeah,
yeah. Or he's part of that club.
Man.
But Serbia is like.
Wasn't there one part where you almost got trampled?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like or something like you were running through. Like it was this crazy ass like look like this stampede happening.
Yeah, so
and you're running with a camera. Like, that's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I'm not looking behind me. I had like a guy behind me watching out, and then our translator luckily like broke up the fight that they were trying to start with me. So in Serbia they gather in this like wooded area in this parking lot, and like before they even get there, there's probably like a couple hundred cops on horses, like they're ready. Yeah. It's been happening for years. It's the Derby, so it's the rivalry of the year. Happens once a year. They come together and have like a meeting in the woods of like 10,000 men, mostly all men, dressed in black with like shaved heads. They look like white supremacists, like total. It's kind of like a white power kind of like thing too.
Oh, it is?
It's trippy, yeah. In a way, but it's not. It's like you'll if you watch the episode, you look it up. It's like the Derby, Serbia's Derby. It's on Viceland. I think it's on, parts of it are on YouTube. Yeah. And so they were gathering in the woods, and I was trying this move that I did back when, like, jackass stuff and filming pranks. So, like, I called it decoying, where you like put somebody, like, if you're there, I'd have the camera and I'd pretend like I was like talking to you and filming you, but I'd be like shooting over your shoulder to get like steal shots off in the distance. Mm-hmm. Because our translator was like, whatever you do, just don't go in there. Like, that's the lion's den. And it was, And I was like, okay, we're gonna go get those shots. And so I went in and set up my decoy, like have a guy standing there, and I'm shooting past him, and then all of a sudden this like crowd comes from out of the woods and sneaks up on us and like grabs my lens and then me, and they start taking us down. And they're just yelling, and I don't know what they're saying, it's like Serbian. And the translator comes running over, and he's like, saves my ass, like pushes him off me. He's like saying whatever he's saying, pulls him back, and then he's like, you can't be in here. And so like we pull back, and then before the game they do a march, and there's like at least there's like 10,000 people marching to the stadium, to the rivalry stadium, and they all come marching forward. And I was marching backwards, filming it, and I was probably like 25 yards away, and another camera operator was like, hey man, I'm with them, you're not. If any one of them doesn't like you, they're gonna run at you or they'll trip you, whatever they want to do, from like the sides or from the front, and then they're all gonna like stomp on you. So like get the hell out of here and be very careful. And it's took like another 25 yards back, and we still filmed the entire thing of them coming down. But it was intense, man. It was super intense. I looked over at our producer, Dan Bradley, and he was like, we had a movie, and he was squeezing that thing so hard, and he was red, and he was like, oh man, I remember looking at him. He looked like he was gonna poop. He was just like, oh, and I was like, this is great. I love that. And that's what led into that riot right before the stadium. So they like fight, they like, the other team marches the other way, they march that way.
Like shooting flare guns all. I mean, there was like, it was smoky, like it was like crazy looking.
Yeah, they have things planted like all over the place, and they just collide like in old school war, and they just battle until it gets broken up. And it's hard to break up because you don't get into that mess,
Yeah, I don't want any parts of that.
No.
I don't even want to watch it. I felt intimidated. It's just watching the video of it was making me nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It took attention off me, which is great. So then I can like kind of do my thing and film all that happening.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's funny how you get energized by that stuff. Like I totally don't. Like where I did this little documentary in Haiti, and that's what ended up leading to me and my wife starting the nonprofit and doing that stuff. But when I was down there, like we were filming this thing, and we were trying to like basically push our way into this like nonprofit place or whatever, and they were armed guys screaming at us in Creole, pointing shotguns at us. And like I just thought to myself, I'm like, this is how you get shot, because I don't know what the fuck that dude's saying, and he doesn't know what I'm saying, and he thinks I'm armed, so he's pointing a sawed-off shotgun at me, but I'm looking through the viewfinder, and it just looks like a movie, and you're like, oh, cool, that's neat, he's about to shoot me, and then like when you put your eye off, you're like, oh, this is real life.
This is great. That's what happens when you're behind a camera. That's what's dangerous. You know, as you know, you kind of have a detached sort of version of reality when you're filming, because you're behind the camera and you're looking at it like you're watching TV, but you're creating it. But it's like a lot of times it's not until you put the camera down that you realize like what happened was kind of crazy, and it could have really like gotten you shot.
Well, that's exactly it. I right after that, like I kind of like came to reality with it.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got out of there is when like the adrenaline and everything kicked in. Then I started getting freaked out by it, but it was after, and it's like I could have already been shot by now.
Yeah.
You know, like that was like you don't even notice it, and that it is like. Just those are those moments where those like language barriers, they think you're doing something, you're not even really doing that, but they think it, and then somebody squeezes a trigger and something bad happens. And yeah, that's
dude, you never know what it takes.
Yeah, and
never know what it takes
yeah.
for them just to like pull that trigger, you know?
Yeah,
like
I admire you for doing that because I prefer to be on like just cozy little sets where people are getting you Starbucks.
Yeah,
that's what I was doing this week. We did. I worked on Between Two Ferns, the Zach Galifianakis.
You just did
thing.
that?
Yeah, this
No
week,
way.
and then I did the David Letterman, My Next Guest.
Oh yeah.
And those, yeah, I like that world a
Yeah,
lot better
yeah.
than having shotguns.
Yeah,
pointed
that's
at
a
me.
little more safe.
Yeah. So it was pretty neat doing that. But yeah, those kind of shows are more my speed. But you're like adrenaline junkie, and you love getting into those
Yeah.
crazy things, which is amazing because obviously like those are the really interesting things to watch. I mean, of course, I love Between Two Ferns and I love David Letterman stuff. Like it's fun; those are funny. But the stories that you pull out are like incredible, and it takes a lot of guts to go in and do that kind of stuff. I'm a chicken and not able to do that kind of stuff, but it's rad that you do it, and it's amazing, really, because the Biggest Little Farm is probably a little more safe, but still, you see in the movie, like, not necessarily, because what went down is dangerous as hell, and everybody could have really had their lives, at risk at that point. But even more so with the Vice stuff that you do. It's just crazy. I mean, hearing some of those stories, I remember you told me that like you wrote goodbye letters at times. It's like, dude, like I said, for me, I'm like, I'm good. I'm just gonna go sit and like, have catering.
I don't look forward to those times, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not something I look forward to.
Not that you look forward to, but I mean, you kind of have the guts to put yourself in that spot.
I like pulling those stories out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like the niche that I found, like it wasn't something that I knew until recently, until I was put into that position, Like I've been filming since I was 14 and doing similar stuff to you, and that's kind of how we bonded.
Yeah.
That and just...
and Turbo Negro.
And Turbo Negro being in a tight leather suit, and then dating shortly after for a good 9 months.
Going on the whole tour of... Benji took me on a whole trip on the weekend, and we did all the romantic things that him and his girlfriend did, and then showed the photos, and she was like, "Hey, what? You took him to that spot?
You stood on the same rock in Big Sur that we stood on to take a photo?"
Yeah, so...
we should go into that story quick.
Yeah. I know, I found the romance that is Benji, and he really romanced me.
I couldn't help it. You're fresh meat out in California, so we had to throw some salt on that, cook you up a little bit. God, that was so much fun when we had that going.
Yeah, we had his girlfriend questioning whether or not he was in love with me as well.
We were.
Yeah. And, she believed it pretty hard.
Yeah, so Sarah, my girlfriend's like, she's a bit gullible, and and for some reason, she was working at the bar at the time. She's a full-time makeup artist now, but at the time she was doing both, and she was at this bar, and at that time, like, we had just been like hanging out when she wasn't home. Like, you were editing
Borrowed Happiness,
Clackety Plam at my house.
Totally smooth, totally killer.
Totally killer. And you're literally here every night. And I don't know how you miss, like, she missed you every single night. Like, so it just, like, after a couple of months of Sarah not meeting you and us hanging out, she got this version of us being gay in her head. Yeah. And we played along with it because we're like, we're totally gay. and so I started recording all of it and filming the conversations and like, and as you know, like, every Sunday we'd go play volleyball with Jim and Jill at the beach, and then we'd go back and have art night and make dinner. Sarah was never there because she always works Sundays. We went on a road trip together. Paintings, like everything that we would ever do. And then we even took it as far as like having other people post about it on social media. So
Yeah.
it was like, you know, our friends were then posting pictures of us
Flying
of what they
kites
thought we were
and-
we were flying kites or parasailing.
Yeah.
And so they would just tag us in it, and then it'd show up on Facebook while she was at work, and
Yeah.
like from the bathroom she'd be like, "What the fuck is going on? Are you gay?
I know.
I've been dating you for 4.5 years. I think I should know if you're gay." I'm like, "What do you got against gay people?"
Yeah.
And the whole
well, that was
like-
the best is that like you made it so like as if she was being homophobic. Like you turned it on to her and was like, "Well, what do you got against gay people?" She's like, "Nothing." Like what? And then you know, like so she's trapped
Yeah.
either way. Like
Yeah.
she's just trying to get the straight answer
Yeah.
of like what's going on, and then you're making her out to be this like bad person
Yeah.
for. And she's like, "No, I don't know. Stop. I don't
love gay people.
Yeah, like
I'm
what are
like,
you
good,
talking
then
about? Like
just be
it's
in
just
love.
that I should know like if you're having like a gay affair behind my back,
Yeah.
like and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she was trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And like you said, she's gullible, so you could kind of really just twist it and turn it, and then she's like. But she couldn't tell if she should be mad, but didn't want to be mad because didn't want to seem like bad, like. And then she's in a weird spot because then as she, is like she was losing either direction.
Dude,
and,
it was so great.
yeah, it was funny. And
It
then
was
when
so
she
great.
finally came over and I finally met her, we were
Hanging out with a
we
gay
were on
couple.
a couples night because it was like there was a gay couple and then me and Benji and then Jill and Jim,
Yeah.
our friends that are chefs, and they were like cooking for us, and it was like art night, and then Sarah's like, "No, I'm coming over." And you're like, "Nah, we're good. Like we're hanging.
Yeah, we're
We'll
about
see
to
you
leave.
tomorrow."
It's like 11 o'clock. Like, I'm taking off soon. You shouldn't come.
I am coming down there."
What's the address? I'll be there in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter where you are. I'm coming, and I'll be there in 15.
Just all fired up, like
Yeah.
coming down, like I'm gonna catch
Just
something.
Cruella de Vil,
Yeah.
like down the road, shows up to the house,
Yeah.
and then walks in, and it's like it's perfect. It's like Jim and Jill,
Yeah.
a gay couple. You know, the two guys.
They're
are
sitting on each
there.
other's lap, and then you and I are right next to each other on the couch.
I think we were holding pinkies or something. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
She like came in, and it was like, oh.
And like I don't think you told Jill and Jim that she was coming, so that when like the door opened, they were kind of like, "Oh, hey."
Oh.
And then like,
Yeah, and we're like, oh, you know, and then
it made it so awkward.
and then when we finally left, I was
Yeah.
like, well, she's like, are you coming home with me, right? And I was like, well,
I came with
I
Rab.
came with
so-
Rab, and you're like, it's all right, just you go there. I was like, I'll ride with you next time, and we like gave like this really
Yeah, like a
nice
weird
warm
long
hug.
hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good because I'm so short and he's like a foot taller, and then I'm just hugging into the midsection. But no, man, that was a lot of fun and funny, and we had all these grand aspirations of doing things so that she would walk in on S&M and weird stuff. But
We're gonna be hog-tied and oiled up to the bed.
So that was a lot of fun. So that was how I met Sarah, and that's your girlfriend, and she's an incredible makeup artist. She does a lot of work in the industry, all types of cool stuff, and she had done some stuff for the Oscars this year, so she's done some amazing stuff, and just continues to just evolve in her craft as well, and it's pretty neat because both of you are like creative people and doing fun stuff, and it's been fun to get to know her, and now she's in on the joke, so it's a lot of fun to kind of joke around about that stuff, and
But was it ever a joke?
well, we'll see. Yeah, man. So not to get off on a totally different thing, but I was thinking when you were talking just kind
Not
of
to
about
be totally straight here for a minute.
yeah, forward, never straight. But yeah, I was thinking about the adventurous kind of work that you do, and not too long ago you did the Iditarod, which is pretty incredible. I wanted to hear a little bit about it. I had heard a couple little stories, but I think everybody knows what the Iditarod is, but it's the dog sled race.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody does, but it's So the Iditarod it's known as the last amazing race, and that's because it's this 1,000-mile race with sled dogs across the Arctic that happens in Alaska. I think it's been almost 50 years now.
Damn, 1,000 miles, dude. That's like that's a third of the country, like of the U.S. Like if you're going straight across.
Yeah, you're not going through like the Midwest either, you know.
Yeah. It's not like the South where it's nice and warm and cozy. Yeah. I mean, so is there like avalanche things that happen as far as like, because I mean, obviously it's through the snow and the weather has got to be insane. What is it? It's like below zero, I feel like the temperatures usually, right? You said, but this year was oddly warm, which made it harder or something?
Yeah. I mean, have you seen White Fang?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that it?
Watch that.
Yeah. Put that in the queue.
Can we cue that up?
Yeah.
It's just like White Fang.
Yeah.
It's the Arctic. Yeah. It's supposed to be really cold. I did it last year also, and we kind of leapfrogged along. We didn't do the entire race. We did enough to feel like we did, but like I realized after doing the whole thing this year that there was a lot we had missed. And this year, I mean, you know, filming in Alaska for the last 5 years, like I've been pretty well accustomed to very, very cold temperatures, like down to -80.
Yeah. Fuck that.
And, you know, I was thinking we were going to experience that. Yeah. I mean, that's cool. That's
just
really
taking
cold.
this and flipping it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, growing up in Minnesota, it was,
Yeah.
you know, we get down to like -30, maybe a little bit less than that. And so, like, that's pretty kind of normal from where I grew up. Alaska, like, that's pretty normal all the time in the wintertime. Yeah. And then it's like double that, you know, or
it's
more.
Normally like -30. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
It's
I mean, in the wintertime, it'll get
pretty much like that.
Yeah, like that's not like extreme. That's not too much for Alaska. You know, it's like
not extreme. That sounds so crazy.
Yeah, and so when you think like the Iditarod, and when we were thinking of like this full 1,000 miles that we were doing across the Arctic, it's already in my head that like, you're gonna run into that. Because like at just some point, like we're gonna hit a snowstorm, we're gonna hit a blizzard, we're gonna, you know, you're there for, I think it takes 9 days, about 8 to 9 days for the winners bracket, and like the top like 10 people usually show up within 8 or 9 days in the finish line in Nome. And we were riding with a guy named Jesse Holmes, who's on a show called Life Below Zero that we document. And so we're kind of just with him filming his experience through the entire race. And last year he did, it was his first race. He got 7th place, Rookie of the Year.
Damn.
And the 25th.
Out of how many people?
There were 60 people.
And then he got 7th?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
first
really
time he
insane.
ever did it?
Ever
I
did
mean,
it.
like, does he train before he even does
Yeah,
it?
he races dogs. So he's like a dog musher. So he, you know,
like
he's
just
in all
hopped out there.
kinds of-
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I don't know how to like.
Yeah.
He just hopped on and grabbed some like street dogs. You know? Yeah, all right, let's go.
Like, damn, he's
Give
natural.
me a knife. I'm gonna need that. Yeah. We're going.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, his story is crazy too, because he was, you know, he was like hopping trains not that long ago. Like he was like a transient, like in LA at one point, and hopping trains and like homeless pretty much. Exactly.
Yeah.
And made his way up to Alaska, and that was his dream, was to race dogs and be a dog musher. So for him, you know, the Iditarod is the Super Bowl of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like the Super Bowl in Alaska. So everywhere else, you know, except for like these Arctic type places like Norway and like, you know, some European countries, and Alaska is like, when this happens, it's like everybody's there for it. You know, it's this huge event, you know, and people are like tailgating like you would at the Super Bowl. Like people have these giant bonfires in the middle of the ice. Like everybody comes out for it.
Yeah.
All these little villages, and that's kind of what's like the coolest part about it, is that you're going across the Arctic into like villages that you would never ever see ever in Alaska. There's no way to get to these places. There's not even a road. You know, like you have to get there by dog mushing. Like you have to get there by like a sled dog team.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so you show up into these little villages that like, this is the highlight of their year, you know? And then you get these like dog mushers that come through that, you know, everybody knows who they are. I don't know who the hell they are. I'm getting to know them because like now it's our second year.
Yeah.
But you come in and they
got fans and stuff.
Yeah, not only them, but the dogs have fans.
Wow.
So the dogs are like, they know the names of the dogs.
Damn.
You know, like the dogs are on covers of magazines, and like there's write-ups about the dogs, you know? And
that's
so
crazy.
like you come in and you're coming in with a pack of 14 dogs, and the villagers are just as excited to see like the dog musher as they are to see the dogs. They get pumped, you know? And that's pretty cool to see. And what was cool about this year is we did the full 1,000 miles, which meant stopping in all these little villages, every single one of them, with the dog teams.
Okay.
And getting to see these people get all excited about it.
During the race.
During the race, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But
nice.
it was, I mean, it was so challenging. Like, it was the most challenging shoot I've had.
I know. I mean, I feel like it would be hard just to do it, but then you add camera packages and like all that. Like it's
man.
Like, cause whenever you see those kind of things, it's like, damn, like that person that's racing the race is like, that's hard. And no one thinks about the person holding the camera. It's the hardest for them because they got to do everything that they're all doing, plus work and focus and focus lenses and just your gears falling apart because you're in negative 80 degrees and this and like all of that, all the elements that go into that while you're working that. I mean, it's really difficult. I watched that Ultimate Expedition thing that like Steve-O and Yuka did, and like that too, you're summiting this mountain and it's like no one's thinking about that person holding that camera and the person holding the boom mic, and that is like awful because you got 30 to 35 pounds on your shoulder, or you got like a field mixer on your waist, and it's like, dude, that on top, just being a person getting on the sled is hard. But then throw the extra
especially when you're
weight.
dressed like the kid from the Christmas Story, like you look like a starfish. You're like, you can't move.
Yeah,
you have so many layers on, and this was a little bit better than normal. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it's like and not only like are we documenting him, but we have another show called Life Below Zero. So they want us to document our experience, like you were just talking about. Yeah. And it really should have another team doing that alone.
So you got to do that and that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so now we're miking ourselves up as well, and we're filming our experience through the entire trail, which on this one was really fun because it was like beginning to end. Yeah. And so it was like getting snippets of that, but it was also very challenging because for many reasons. I mean, the first like 2 days of filming, we didn't sleep. We did 40 hours not sleeping. Yeah. Going into the race.
40 hours right into it?
Right off the bat, yeah. We went across the finish line, we didn't sleep for 40 hours, and then took a 20-minute nap, and then did another, like, 30-hour day. And I was DPing it and producing, and then I'm also, doing sound. We don't have a sound guy, so there's just a team of three of us. So there's a lot to focus on. Yeah. And then the media at the end of the day, like making sure all the cards, like it's GoPro heavy. There's like 5 GoPros, and like taking care of that. And so like not sleeping and all that is one thing, and then working off of that, and like you're hallucinating on like day 3. Yeah. That was new. I hadn't hallucinated yet. And then you're filming, like you're trying to like film this race that you're just in like the most extreme elements, like when you do get a nap, you're napping in the snow, like you just throw like your negative 40 degree sleeping bag into the snow, dig like a little hole and like cover your eyes and rest, but you're resting in the middle of the day.
And you won't like freeze or whatever, like when you're...
No, I mean, you can, yeah. But I mean, like I was saying, like this one was pretty exceptionally warm for the Iditarod and for Alaska. So like, global warming, like it
doesn't exist, but go ahead.
Doesn't exist, yeah.
but I mean, like the negative 40 sleeping bag is protection enough, like that you won't freeze. In that?
So for I wouldn't take off my clothes, so I would be in full layers and the negative 40, and then I just wrap myself like. Okay. With things that I know how to do, with like hand warmers in the bottom of the bag or foot warmers and things like that. And then you got batteries dying because like it's so cold. Yeah. And things, like there's so many different like elements to it. Yeah. But we have like the best people on it.
Yeah. And that seems like just a rad challenge to kind of like see that you could do it.
And I love that.
Yeah. 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 And I know that about you. That's what I mean. Like you do those things that kind of take it to the next level of challenging yourself to make a film or a documentary or whatever it is that you're doing, and it's like it's super challenging stuff, which is cool, and it's awesome to like witness that as your friend and see, oh damn, this is the next thing that he's doing. It's fun to be like a spectator of that, you know. Like me, I'd probably be bitching and moaning the whole time it was cold. Like, God, I gotta sleep in this mat, So I'll be on the set with the Starbucks.
It's not for everybody.
But it's so cool that you do it and like that you have that, because you're a super adventurous person, and I think like my adventure consists of like, let's go camping, like
in the backyard.
versus
in my
versus
bed.
like versus like, let's go sleep in a sleeping bag in negative 40 degrees on the Iditarod. Like that's pretty incredible. But you mentioned a little bit about another show, Life Below Zero, which you are DP of that show, and you've done multiple seasons of that show, right? And so you're up in Alaska shooting that show, and is that Nat Geo or?
Yeah.
Okay, and so what's that like? Like what's
I
that
mean,
like?
it's what got me into documentary filmmaking. Yeah. I owe a lot to that show, and my friend Oliver, who's passed. You know, he fought for me to get onto that show, and just thought it would be a right fit, and he was right.
Yeah,
I hadn't quite found my niche, and I think you and I have spoke about it a little bit.
Yeah,
where it's like, you know, you day play a little bit. You move to LA, you don't have consistent work. You're freelancing. You day play. You get into some like reality TV, get into some like
amazing content.
Beautiful content. You get to be so creative when you shoot people throw shoes at each other. And it kind of, you know, at that time it was really defeating me as far as a filmmaker, being like, damn,
it's challenging, I think, because I bounce that line of like, okay, I gotta work, so I just gotta take whatever's happening, versus like I want to work on something that I'm excited about. Like I said, you do Between Two Ferns, and like that's hilarious and it's fun, and you're like, yeah, that's fun to do. Like, and we'll talk more. You've done some really cool stuff with Tim and Eric and those things, you know, and Sacha Baron Cohen's thing, and so you do all those things too, and like you've really fallen into a place where you're working on the stuff that you want to work on, and that's there's a lot to be said for that, because like I said, I you know, find myself on some shows where, you know, it's a paycheck, and you know that it is, and people know that it is, but you do what you're doing because you need to make a living. But when you do get onto the ones that you're excited about, you could just feel the energy shift, and how much different that is for you, and it's so important because you spend so many hours on set, and you spend so much of your life doing that stuff. If you're doing the things where they're throwing shoes at each other, it's like really soul sucking, and you kind of are like, oh God. Of course, sometimes you just have to do it, and you know it beats the alternative of like, you know, for me personally, if I had to do some like, you know, like an office job every day or whatever, I might go crazy on that. So it beats that alternative. But when you get on a fun show that you're like, man, the energy's rad, like it's like it's energizing rather than soul sucking in terms of just being like psyched on what you're doing and like excited to see the finished product. It's really rare that you like go, hey, I want to check this out. You know, like after you finish working on it, you're like, I'm going to watch the episode.
Watch that.
Like that's pretty rare. So it's pretty neat to watch because like I said, I mean, you've been killing it for years now, just on projects like that, like on The Biggest Little Farm and all the Vice stuff and Life Below Zero. And then just to jump over to that, like Sacha Baron Cohen, what is the show called?
Who is America?
Yeah, like Who is America? Yeah. I mean, I remember because you were quiet about it, but you had talked to me a little bit of just like, hey, I'm on this, but I gotta be like, I can't say anything about what it is, but I'm on this show that's pretty cool and blah blah blah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I was like, cool. And then to come to find out, like you gave me and Asha, my wife, like tickets to go to see the screening thing, and that was rad because we went in and saw the Who is America. Like I didn't really know what I was even going to see. I think you mentioned briefly before, like, oh, it's a new project that Sacha Baron Cohen's working on, so I knew that much information going in. And then you sit down and saw, like, you know, him doing what he does best, because he's genius at kind of poking fun at, you know, the hypocrisies and the ridiculous you know, things that go on in America, but also in the world, and it was hilarious and fun to see that, and so like you get to work on that cool stuff.
Dude, that was amazing. Yeah, it was a dream come true, that one.
Yeah, and so was that like you had known somebody and they brought you in, or you had like, because you hadn't you worked with them before on something? Or?
Yeah, so Chris Darnell is who brought me in. He DP'd that. Yeah, and him and I met him here at the castle. So nice. This place.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Are we sitting at a castle?
In that wide shot there. I've lived here for 9 years. When I moved from Santa Cruz, I moved into the castle. Yeah. And when I moved into the castle, I moved in with Adam and Lisa, who you know. And Lisa is known for being on America's Next Top Model.
Yeah.
And she was doing a show, like a show about her at the castle, and we were all kind of involved.
Yeah.
And so I just naturally just walked into this like part of like that house
situation,
in that situation, and they were filming us, and it was our friend Jamar and a bunch of other friends, and then this guy Chris Darnell. So I actually met Chris while he was filming me here as a character on this like show that was just ended up being a pilot.
Yeah.
But I would just take Chris and we'd go have fun. I'd take like a saucer and we'd go sliding down the Hollywood Hills with like a medieval helmet and a stick, and we'd just be like whacking stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And we just had a good time together. And so it was like a year later, he called me to come and work with him on some comedy stuff. He does a lot of Comedy Central.
Yeah.
We ended up doing Tim and Eric together.
Yeah.
Did a bunch of Tim and Eric, and then it was great because like I rarely got to work with him because I then went to National Geographic and Vice and was full on with that, but I would hop off when he gave me these like crazy offers, and they were always like he knew like what I liked and what we like to work on together.
Yeah.
And so it would just be like random. Like I think 4 years ago he called me and was like, "Hey man, do you want to take like," I just know when he calls it's going to be an adventure, you know? And this one back then was like, "Hey man, I got this, we're going to do this thing with these comedians. How do you feel about like going 900 miles down the Mississippi River on jet skis?"
Oh yeah, I remember that thing. Yeah.
For this thing for Comedy Central as like a charity for, delivering goats and chickens to Africa. It was called Roustabout.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. I took off time and we did that. We went from Chicago to New Orleans on jet skis and we filmed like a comedy troupe go down the river, jet ski the entire thing, and do comedy shows along the way. And it was great. And so, with no exception, Who Is America, which we didn't know that was the name at the time, got brought up to me a couple years ago, and he called me and he was like, "I have this project, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you what it is. Just trust me on this one. I'm going to send you an NDA, sign it, and just say yes." And I had just done the biggest little farm. I just gotten off the farm. I'd been wanting, I was like eager to get back into traveling again, get back in like with Vice, and like all of a sudden this project was like, he approached me with this project, and after I heard who it was and what it was going to be, I was like, oh shit. Sacha Baron Cohen is like my social, not social, comedic like hero, you know? And so to get to work with him was insane. And from day one, it was just like, okay, like this is like Borat all over again, but like he's tackling political.
Yeah, and so many different characters, and
and what was cool about it was like he took a liking to me right away because I was tall. He likes tall people, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we really got along, and it was really odd because like he used to go to the bathroom with me a lot in between shoots, and he'd ask me like, "Is this funny?" And I'm like, we'd just be peeing. I'd be like, "Yeah, it's pretty funny."
Just you
I'm like,
peeing funny, or
no,
what you were
like,
doing?
Yeah, like
I was like, "Is this
like,
funny?"
Show me his dick. Be like, is this funny? No, he was asking if like the bit was funny, like. And he kind of confided in me a little bit with like seeing like how it was looking on camera, but asking if it was coming across funny. Yeah. And to me, I was like, dude, you're Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, if this is funny. Like, you are.
Yeah, but even like those people, like even like the best of the best are still slightly insecure about whether it's working.
But to me, it was just like my like 10-year-old self was just like, holy shit, like.
Yeah. It's cool to be in that spot and be like, I get the firsthand look at this. Yeah. And get to kind of,
see how it happens.
Yeah, and also like be supportive to him and saying like, yeah, this is rad. This is working. Or maybe if you tried it that way or whatever, like, because there are things like that. I think as a camera guy, you can see why certain things work certain ways or whatever, and you are the very first eye on it. It's like that's kind of getting to see that.
And that's a very special project where it's not a film set. I mean, it is, but it's a hidden film set. Yeah. And it's very, very secretive.
Intimate on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, because we're in that room with him, and there's just 2 cameras and him.
Yeah.
And the director will come in every once in a while, who's also in character. We were in character. At least I was feeling like I was in character. Yeah. Like I would dress different. I had like these short khaki shorts on. I had to nerd myself up a bunch. That was his note on like day one. Like, you look too cool. Like, cut your hair. I was like, I'll put it in a ponytail, and then grew out my beard a little bit so you couldn't see me smiling. And then I usually put something in my mouth to stop me from any kind of grinning, you know, so I could chew on something, because like you're literally in front of like some of the funniest situations you could ever be involved with.
Yeah, and that I think it's tough too in those situations to not listen but listen, because you have to listen to see where this is taking you, especially if you, depending on your coverage, you have to be listening to what's happening. But if you listen too close to what's happening, you're gonna crack up laughing or whatever. So you also have to like not listen. Like I learned that a lot with DiCamillo when I used to just do a bunch of scenes with Brandon, because he's super funny, and it was really hard to like. So I'd listen but not listen. Yeah. So I'd listen to where the inflection of the tone and things are shifting, so where maybe I needed to say something, but I would not listen to what's being said. I would just listen
so that you wouldn't laugh.
Yeah. So you just listen to like the cadence and the things like that, and not listening to what's being said. And actually the other day with Galifianakis on the Two Ferns thing was the same thing. Like he's funny as shit, and so you just like have to like sort of not listen to what's being said and just do that same thing of like hearing the cadence or hearing what's happening, doing this, and like not listening to the exact words. Because the exact words are going to like you don't want to be that dude that's just like, and it's like, oh, sorry.
And then you blow it,
Yeah, like you can't. Yeah. You actually just can't. So you have to like learn to not do that. So it's got to be similar with him.
I mean, you can't on a level of like, you're going to blow this like,
and it might get dangerous.
O.J. Simpson's here today. And we've got 26 hidden cameras in the penthouse of this like hotel in Las Vegas. And it's cost, it's like $1 million.
Yeah, so you got to shut that off. But also,
there's a lot of people here involved. And O.J. Simpson showed up, which we weren't sure if he was, and now he's in here. And like, if you're gonna be the one laughing in the closet, like you're out. You're not just out, but like that's bad news,
Yeah. So it's cool. That's rad, man. So Tim and Eric as well. I'm a huge fan. I mean, all those guys. Obviously Sacha Baron Cohen. Huge fan of what he does, and it's incredible. And then Tim and Eric, for me, I love them so much because they're so weird, and I love weird. Like that is the stuff that works for me, where other people are like, I don't know what they're talking about, or it's just too weird. I'm like, oh, it's not weird enough.
Like, that's kind of like weirder. My barometer for Friends,
Yeah.
Like put that on. I'm like, do you like that? Okay, cool.
We can hang out.
We'll hang out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not into that? Yeah. Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah, Tim and Eric was like, man, we did a couple really funny ones. One that like they put a blooper episode up. It's you can look it up. It's called Dr. Warheim.
Yeah.
They were playing Doctor, Tim and Eric were, and they're in like this old porn set that like was this old, it had like glory holes. It was like this old doctor set with like showers and it had glory holes in it and all kinds of like weird things happening.
Yeah.
And then there they are, like playing Doctor. And they were trying to shoot like 8 episodes in this afternoon, and I think we got 3 done because they couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then because they were laughing, like we were laughing.
Yeah.
And then it created an entire episode in itself. It's episode 4, Dr. Warheim, and it's a full-on blooper episode. It's just like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, all crack up.
And I actually bit a hole through my lip during that one because I was trying so hard not to get like... Yeah, it was another one of those situations. Like you can't laugh because they're going to laugh, and so like I literally bit a hole in my lip. I'm like just biting down. It was so funny. But that episode, to the day, I think I've never laughed harder.
Man, that's rad.
That was incredible.
Yeah. So what do you got lined up? Like, what's happening now? Are you going to get back in? Talking about the fact that you do Comedy World, Sacha Baron Cohen, Tim and Eric, those things, and then you also do these crazy adventurous type shows. The Biggest Little Farm is in theaters right now. And then is your goal now to get back on the road and travel more and do these adventurous things?
So,
or are you like heading in the comedy world for a minute?
Yeah, I kind of just let it happen.
Yeah, whatever's going.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like how freelance works. But like, Vice, I was really lucky to be in with Vice, and I did the Vice on HBO Weekly show for 4 years. It's canceled now, so that's like that was a huge portion of like my traveling.
Yeah,
like I was gone all the time.
Oh yeah. And you were in like 75 countries in like, you know, a month, and you're like, holy, what?
Yeah.
You're like, here I am over here.
Yeah. I was waking up in countries and I didn't remember, like, you know, because it was like, I did 350 flights in 2 years.
Wow.
We were keeping track of them.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time that it was like, damn, like, where am I?
Yeah,
I was in Italy
real.
yesterday. Where am I going again today? And what's the story? And it was amazing. I mean, it was just like cruising with best friends, telling awesome stories.
Yeah.
Making, I felt like content that like mattered.
Yeah.
The show was incredible. So it got canceled this year. So it's done now. So that was like a huge portion of my travel. Always looking to travel though, you know. Yeah. I mean, if I get on something like that, great. If not, like I always have, you know, something happening. It seems like it hasn't really slowed down, which I'm super fortunate for because it tends to be projects I love.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the Bathroom Break podcast. And if you're listening, check out The Biggest Little Farm. That's one of his most recent projects that is out in theaters right now. Benji Lanpher here, just hanging out at the castle. Yeah. Let's go do some nightly things.
Yeah.
All right, boy.
Take this over.
Yeah, let's go swimming. Sweet.